Right. Shalom. Idolatry is a very funny philosophy, a phenomenon. Why they choose to worship what they worship, and for what reason, it's so irrational.
So what?
Irrational. However, there was one of the most powerful sources of idolatry was to worship living organisms, animals, as we see in Egypt, and trees. When a tree is worshipped, it's called an Asherah. Asherah. In Hebrew, calls it an Asherah. There's very many peoples worship trees. There's a book, an archaeology, an anthropology called, the famous book called The Golden Bough.
The what?
The Golden Bough.
Bow, not
Yeah, the Golden Branch. It's a very book about all the peoples, like the Celts in England and other peoples who worship trees. The Torah says, look at source number 2, tear down their altars, in Dvarim, speaking about entering the land of Canaan. Do not take any of his idolatry, and you have to tear it down, smash their pillars. Shivartem and matzevotam, they also did matzevet. Vashereyem tisrefun ba'esh. Their sacred trees, put their sacred to the fire, burn them. Okay. So we know that Asherah is an object of Avodah Zarah. Avodah Zarah. One more thing on Avodah Zarah that we should know, and that is that a Jew who owns Avodah Zarah, that Avodah Zarah can never be nullified forever. If a Jew owns it, it remains Avodah Zarah. If a non-Jew, however, owns Avodah Zarah, and he is able to nullify it, the object becomes usable. Now we're going to learn here al-halacha about the use of an Asherah for a purpose, halachi purpose. What is that purpose? Purpose is how to make a mavoi, an alleyway that you can walk in it. People from the various chatzerot can all walk together, considered like Rashut HaYachid. The Torah, the Mishnah says that you need a crossbeam, a korah, and 2 verticals, side posts, poles, called lechi. There's a discussion, but Shammai says you need a lechi and a korah, but Hillel says or lechi or korah, and Rabbi Eliezer says lechayim. This is actually we learned in the Mishnah.
But the question is, how without a lechi, how can you have a car? It just sits there and you know.
No, so you only a lechi, you don't need a korah. According to Hillel.
But if you have a kaira, you need a lechi.
No, you put it on something else. You attach it on the sides, on the walls, and the stones. Mm-hmm. You don't need vertical poles.
No problem. There's no threshold. It doesn't look like a threshold. It looks like a...
So let's take a look at the first source number 1, which is one of the most fascinating and difficult Mishnayot, Gemaras actually. Let's take a look. You want to read? Let's read first in Hebrew. David, you want to read? Itmar.
Rav Chia bar Ashi Amar Osim Lechi Asherah. Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish Omer Osim Korah Asherah. Manda Amar Korah Kol Sheken Lechi. Umanda Amar Lechi Aval Korah Lo. Kitotei Machatat Shiureh.
Okay. I want to explain. So Rabbi Chia bar Ashi says that you can make a lechi, the vertical post, from an Asherah. Rabbi Shimon says you can make a korah. You make a crossbeam. So Mande Amar Korah, the one who says korah, of course, if you can make a korah out of Asherah, even more so you can make a lechi. But he who says lechi, no, you cannot make a korah from an Asherah. Why? The Mishnah explains. There is a concept called kitute michtad shiureh. Kitute michtad shiureh in Aramaic means it is about to be destroyed, and therefore its dimension is destroyed or nullified. What does it refer to? Anything that belongs to Avodah Zarah, owned by a Jew, has to be burned. The Gemara says, if something is have to be burned, it becomes null, non-existent, even before it is, while it is still in its physical state. You see it, but it's not there. This applies to shofar, for example, that has to have 3 tfachim minimum. If shofar was used in Avodah Zarah,
Can't use it.
you cannot use a shofar.
Right.
Not because of Avodah Zarah, it's because the shofar does not have the proper dimensions. Because since it has to be burned, it doesn't have the right shiur. Michtat shiure. A lulav, taken from a tree that was made into Asherah, right? You cannot use a lulav. Why? Because the lulav has to have 3 tfachim high, minimum. And since it's supposed to be burned, michtat shiure.
So even if the lulav wasn't part of the tree, it's still,
Well, lulav is part of the tree, of course. Why not?
because it's sort of, it just hangs.
No, it's a part of the tree. It's a branch. It's a branch.
A branch, yeah.
Yeah, the tree means everything in the tree, whatever.
Okay.
So here the translation is very long. I don't always like these translations. I explained essentially what I needed to say. So the reason that he distinguishes between a lechi and a korah is that a lechi does not have a dimension. Let's take a look, whereas a korah does have measurement. Let's take a look at source number 3. Next page. הקורה שאמרו רחבה כדי לקבל אריח.
Yeah.
It has to be wide enough that you could put a brick in it. It's half a brick. And half a brick is of 3 tfachim, 3 fists.
Yes.
And la korah שתהיה רחבה טפח. So it has to be enough to hold 1 tefach, wide enough. כדי לקבל אריח לאורכו. So the brick is 1 tefach wide and 3 tefachim long. So you put it, longitudinally. So the korah has to be just at least 1 fist wide. That's the korah. Lechi, on the other hand, look at source number 4. Govhan 10 טפחים, 10 high, ורוחבן ועוביין כלשהו. You don't need any dimension to the width, the thickness, anything will work. Infinite, microscopic amount would be enough. כלשהו. Forget Rabbi Yossi for a moment. We're going back with the Chachamim. So, and notice what the Rambam writes. And so now we have the
More in the mission.
the clear what the size of the korah is, what the size of the lechi is.
Doesn't
No.
the lechi have to support the korah?
Yeah, we know necessarily. It's a good point, by the way. We said that the korah can be
Has
attached
to
to
be-
something. Yeah, but even if there is no korah,
Right.
where's the lechi? Forget no. How can you put a lechi? Now,
You're sticking it on a wall, obviously. You're sticking it on a wall.
sticking on the wall.
You have to create surat petach.
But no, only one side is enough. Okay.
But it's
So the rest is
a
not.
form,
Yeah.
a form that looks like a,
Yeah, it has to, but it has. It
like a
actually,
demarcation.
demarcation.
Demarc.
It's a sign to demarcate to mark that this is the end of the Mabot. So it's really more a marker. A
It could
marker.
be in the ground too. It could be.
Yeah, it should be 10 tfachim high.
Right, but it could be placed in the ground.
But it can't be on the floor.
Right,
It's
but it
gotta
doesn't have
on
to be
the
by wall.
size of the
Standalone.
top.
Yeah, it has to be. The reason the Rava actually says, I will say in a moment, that is essentially a marker. But let's take a look a little bit at the problem.
Essentially a what?
A marker.
marker.
Because what is a mavoy? Mavoy is an alleyway, right? And the alleyway you're going to go into the Reshut Harabim. How are you going to separate the Reshut Harabim from the mavoy? You have to say this is the end of the mavoy.
Demarcation.
A demarcation.
Alleyway.
Right. Okay? So now, this is only very easy. It's going to get more complicated now. First of all, the Rambam says, "Bakol osim lechayim afilu b'dvar sheish baruch b'chaim afilu b'sorei hanaya." Even things which you're not allowed to derive a benefit from. Just quickly, if you're not allowed to derive any benefit from Avodah Zarah, how are you allowed to use the lechi for Mashera? According to Rabbi Chia. Okay, so let's make the point that when you are actually putting that piece of pole on the wall, you're not deriving a benefit from the pole, you're deriving a benefit from the mavoy. It's the mavoy that makes it. That's one of the explanations. You're not deriving directly a benefit. It doesn't matter what you put there. What you are is you're enabling you to carry on Shabbat. Right?
But without it, it doesn't exist.
Without, there's no mavoy. Right.
What is mavoy? After you put the Korah, then
The alleyway.
It's a
Yeah,
private.
it's a walk.
It's a private
Domain.
rishis.
Domain.
Like a hallway.
Oh, yeah,
But shared
It's an
by
alleyway,
different
but they
homes.
have houses.
But
It's
shared by
exactly
different
an
homes.
alleyway.
but that doesn't make a
That's
difference.
why, if it was one guy's thing, it would be his property, but it's shared by
Right,
different
it's an
homes.
alleyway for
But it's,
houses. Right.
but it's not a rishis harabim. That's the point.
Right.
It's not a rishis harabim.
But it's connected to the Rosh Hashanah.
It's connected, but you can
Technically.
carry it in the rishis harabim. You can't carry at all, except for 3 hours that you can carry
Right, so there are button you shouldn't be carrying in this, in this alleyway.
Yeah. I'm surprised I remember this much.
Very good. Okay. So now the problem is this. If you say that the Korah is not good because it's Avodah Zarah, michtat shiure, there's no, you consider it as if it's already destroyed, even though it's not destroyed yet. But it will become destroyed later on. You must destroy it. You have to look legally, from the point of view of law, as if it doesn't exist. So we understand why you cannot use the Korah, a cross beam, from Avodah Zarah. Why are you allowed to use it from a lechi? Isn't it the same thing? Evanta, Shimon. If you say that the Korah, you're not allowed to use it from Asherah, because Ra'ui le'isaref michtat shiure, you have to say that it doesn't exist now. So then what if it doesn't make with the vertical? It's also from Asherah. Why do we say that this is okay? Look what Rambam says. Bakolosim Mishnah Torah, Mishnah, source number 5. Mishnah Torah. Bakolosim lechayam afilu b'dvar she'en ruach, עבודה זרה עצמה זו השאלה שעשה אותה לחי כשר. שהלחי, by the way, notice, שהלחי עוביו כלשהו. Since there's no dimension to the ovi,
could be a wire.
could be a wire, could be like a shoelace.
Not a wire, but a
Not to be more than that.
slat.
גובה הלחי, however, אין פחות מ10 טפחים, but at least the height has to be a minimum of 10. So now the question is obvious, right? Don't we say that there has to be at least 10 tefachim high? So how are you saying that this is not a, if it is Avodah Zarah, michtat shiure, the size is destroyed, so there's no
height.
lechi.
No height.
So
There's no
right,
height.
there's no height.
There's nothing.
What do you mean the side is destroyed?
You've eliminated the height.
What do you mean the side is destroyed?
Anything that belongs to Avodah Zarah has to be destroyed.
Oh,
The rabbis
yeah,
say
okay.
that anything has to be destroyed,
Is destroyed.
even when it is still physically
Yeah.
here. You have to consider it as if it doesn't
Okay.
exist. That's michtat shiure. כאילו השיעור שלו, he loses its importance. It no longer is something, it doesn't become part of physical or reality. From a point of view of law, it doesn't exist. That's a concept. So that was there's no shiur. We're not really, in this case, the Gemara is more specific. It doesn't say that it disappears. It simply says that since you have to have a minimum dimension, and this has to be destroyed, so the minimum dimension disappears. Whatever it is, we do not know how much it is. But you cannot say it's a tefach, because it has to be destroyed. So it's not the issue.
Yeah.
So now the question is, why a korah? You say you cannot make a korah, but a lechi you can make a lechi. It seems the same problem. So the
But the Korah we define as being, in a sense, a function, like you could hold a brick.
That's it.
So that's not like just it's not holding anything, it's not doing anything. This is something that can be a kli. You're making a kli in a way out of it. You can do a function, you can hold something, has to be at a certain standard.
Yeah, but the width is not in order to hold it. It's simply a way of measuring it.
Right, but the fact that that's how they define it.
Right, but you don't have to put a thing in it. It doesn't function or anything if it doesn't have a brick. I accept the fact that there is a difference, but I don't think that the difference is its function, because that doesn't have a function either. Doesn't have to have a function. What does the Rambam say? What is the difference between lechi and korah? Take a look at the Rambam.
Maybe above the Korah is the Korah. Above the Korah could be the sky, but in the size there's a dafnot.
Yeah. Okay.
So maybe the dafnot can use also as a part of the.
The alleyway
letter,
itself.
yeah.
No, but you need to have an additional marker, additional line on top of the wall.
Yeah.
The wall alone will not be enough. But what does the Rambam say? Take a look at the Rambam. The Rambam tells us the answer, the difference between Korah and Lechi.
Because it doesn't matter what material you're using for this.
Doesn't matter what.
Because what?
What material you're using.
What's the material?
You can use anything.
Doesn't matter.
Even something yesh baruch chayim.
Yeah.
It could be. It's not even.
What else doesn't have? Doesn't require?
Afilu b'surei hana.
That's what?
No. What else? But what else?
A width.
Width doesn't have dimensions. Kol shehu. What he's saying is the Korah requires a certain size.
Right.
The lechi does not require a certain size. And because, in a way, as what we'll explain,
In one dimension, not in.
very good, has a height. But in the width, it has no dimension. So apparently, he makes a distinction between the height and the dimension. The height is not important because the height, to him, apparently is not important. What matters is that the item itself is insignificant. It could be a little hairline shoelace. Okay. So that's why you cannot destroy what is almost insignificant. I think that is the argument of the Rambam. It's called Shu. Now, we will further this a little bit more, but that appears to be the answer of the Mishnah Torah. What do you think is the objection the Rav had in phrase number 6? It's an obvious objection, which you're bringing.
Why are you choosing the width that's important and not the height?
Right. If you say Michtad Shiureh, you see.
What is the height? The thickness?
No,
Huh?
The height is the height.
No, of the Korah. You said the height.
The Korah is the
The
Korah.
Korah is
When you
the
talk about the
The height
left,
from the floor to the Korah.
yeah,
Okay.
right.
Wow.
Doesn't have to be Korah, by the way. It can be Lechi by itself.
now, the lucky. Not talking
No,
about the phone.
no.
It could be a Lechi by itself. But there's an obvious objection of the Raivad, which I didn't, it's not here, by the way, I didn't realize.
Yeah, it's number 6. The Rabbi objects to the Rambam's explanation.
In 6? What? 6?
Oh, actually, no, you're right.
Oh, no, you're right.
Well, no, what he's saying is, wait. He is saying it. He's saying, the Rabbi is making the objection that if you say michtat shiureh, then the height is also compromised.
no height.
That's right.
Right.
Okay? You got that?
Yes.
There's no height.
No. So, the Rambam wants to make distinction between the Korah, which is let's say, significant, and a lechi, which is insignificant. Right? But if the principle is that once something has to be burned, you then consider it to be as if it doesn't exist, so it should not exist either. And yet you're saying, but it has to have 10 tvachim. The Tosafot makes a suggestion. I want to take this, because it's a really beautiful idea. First of all, he argues a little bit like the Rambam, the amount is very small. So it's not so important. You know, when you are going to say that something of Avodah Zarah has to be considered to be non-important, as if it doesn't exist, is when you have something that is in itself significant. You have to have 3 tefachim, 10 tefachim, Elulav has to have a certain this, you have to. But here the dimension is so little, it almost is not worth thinking about Bichtat Shiureh. There's no, what do you worry about it in little nothing? That's what I think Tosafot is saying. The second reason, which is interesting, listen to the other idea. Rav Avraham in the Tosafot. I'm sorry, I didn't bring a copy of the Tosafot, but you can take a look a little bit later. It's in the
Ireland.
yeah. Aval Korah, so actually reading inside, Aval Gav Lechiname by Shiur Gova, even though it requires a height. Mia by Mikol Makom, Kevan de lo by Ela Shiur Zuta. Since it requires a very small amount, significant amount, the fact that it's so high, it's also insignificant. It doesn't matter how high it is, because it's insignificant to begin with. It's a little late. Lo achmiru bo. This is, the rabbis did not insist on it. Rav Avraham suggests, and this is fascinating. Can you read the English, see if you can understand what I translated? David, what do you think Rav Avraham is saying?
In other words, even if you had a destroyed thing and you just kind of glued it together, that's a pole.
Exactly. Okay, you're going to destroy? Yeah, destroy it. Okay, now we pulverize. But you take all the fragments, you glue them together, you put them there. That's the Tosafot, that's what they're saying using the Asherah. It's not the Asherah in its
Original form.
original
It's
form,
original
but it
form.
is after you pulverize it. That is a little bit.
But because like you don't
What do you like?
need its original form because it's such a thin thing. But the other one, it seems you need it to make a piece of wood that's like a tefach or something.
Because you
like
need,
that.
exactly, there you need a dimension, yeah. You like this argument of the Tosafot, of Rav Avraham?
Okay.
You don't like it? No, it's a Shimon. Yeah, why not?
I don't think I understand that well.
No, what he's saying is that maybe, what is michtat? The word he uses, Shimon, is
BD books now.
אם היה מדבק אחתיתים בכותל, הווה לחי.
I think that my problem is the Hebrew, not the English.
You take the ktitim, you destroy the Asherah, you take all the little fragments, and you glue them together, and you put them on the wall. That's what Tosafot says as a suggestion.
That's okay.
So you achieved the burning. He's not doing it, you think it's going to be burned. No, you burned it, and then you put it all together.
So aren't you having a no on that?
Huh?
Aren't you now having a no?
But it was already destroyed.
Yeah.
So it's not idle? It's
no
something
longer.
else
No
already?
longer. Yeah.
It's post-idle?
Both sides.
But now we say, even if it is the original thing, it's as if it was already destroyed and we just glued it together or something like that.
Yeah. That, okay. Very good. You could say that. It doesn't have to actually be.
Doesn't that have to be
It
destroyed?
is the potential fragments that are here. Right. That's even more complicated. You don't have to actually break it. You're going to say it's as if it's a virtual pulverization. I virtually pulverize and I put those little pieces over there.
But you do actually have to destroy it.
Well, not necessarily. What
It
David
doesn't have to
said.
be destroyed at the moment,
Oh, eventually.
but it has to be destroyed.
Right.
It's as if you destroyed it.
Yeah.
That's the whole premise there.
Right.
I still say, like, okay, tearing out some strip of this
Well,
tree.
but if it was the whole thing, you couldn't say it's as if it destroyed.
No, but I'm
So
saying,
it has to be smaller.
right, so you
Right, a thin strip of a tree is like you destroyed it.
I'm trying-
A thick plank or some board or something that you took, you made that out of a tree. That's not something, when you destroy a tree, it doesn't become boards. It can become strips and things and stuff, but it's not gonna become a board. A board you have to actually make out of the tree.
Right, well, but how do you make that? So what's your...
So I'm saying, it's not the destruction of the tree, it's using the tree. It's a difference between,
that's
you know,
about,
like if you chopped it into firewood and you get some strips and things and then you use it, okay, fine.
It's no
But
longer
if
a
you're
tree.
making into a board of a certain height and weight, width or whatever, something, you're using the tree, you're not destroying the tree.
Okay. So you say in this case, if you use it with a certain dimension, certain size, you're using
It's
it.
a thing made from a tree,
You're
not,
using it.
not like just a piece of a tree that you.
But the Mishnah says, or the Gemara says, it's a shera. It's the actual shera. It doesn't say pulverized. So it has to say, we have to say that it is possibly an ashera, but still, there's a problem that you have you have to have a minimum height.
You have what?
A minimum height.
A minimum height. Okay.
I want to tell you quickly, the Mishnah Brura writes, Belechi, afilu aya nisraf. You want to read the Shimon? Bobo.
No, wait, I can see clear. I can see good.
Huh?
I can see him.
A naim
Okay.
or
Oh, no, you need glasses. Okay. But you can hear, right? Your hearing is good. Afilu aya nisraf ha'etz. אתה שומע? אפילו היה נשרף העץ לאפר והיה מגבל לאפר ומדבק לכותל, גם כן חשיב לחי. Let me translate. Even if you actually, this is what Mishnah Brura says. Huh?
Yeah, the ashes.
Right. Even if you burned it, actually, and you made it into ashes, and you take the little ashes and you glue them together and attach them to the wall, because all you need is a little marker. It could be a red crayon. That would be considered to be, actually it's not, because
Yeah,
it
why-
has to be something real.
Okay.
That's not, yeah. Has to have some body. But this is a very, that's what the Rambam says, it's so minute, so unimportant, so bli chashivut. The whole idea of michtat shiureh means that if something goes to be burned, it loses its importance. This is not important. That's what Rambam says. But the question that remains, what about the height? It has to have a certain height.
I have another question.
Okay, no, it's okay. I'm going to read to you this long Rabbi Chaim. Yeah.
Let's say you burn something, and now you have ashes. And let's say you want to use it as fertilizer, whatever, I'm stretching it. You still shouldn't be able to use it. You're still getting a no. Or it doesn't matter. It's a new dimension. Once you destroyed it, it's,
I think so, yeah. Yeah.
you know, enough of this little can become big.
Yeah.
Enough ashes, you can build
It's
something.
no longer, then it's no
It's
longer.
no longer a shira. So
Right, it's already
Is that what
beyond.
David was saying? Yeah,
You
it's,
you fulfilled the mitzvah to surfum ba'esh, you burnt it, done, finished.
you're not deriving a benefit from it because it doesn't exist anymore.
It isn't that. It's something else you're
Right,
benefiting
exactly,
from.
exactly.
yeah, right.
Yeah. Pinchas, are you following all this? More or less. Okay.
If you burn chametz, you can
that shouldn't be edible.
You can use that too.
Yeah,
The hummus is not
It's
an
not
insert.
chametz anymore, you burnt it.
yeah.
They don't
Certainly it doesn't count as
But there's a
chametz.
whole question, yeah, as to whether you can use it to bake something with it. That could be
burn it to
considered,
make
yeah,
a
no,
fire.
yeah, no, yeah.
That's the act of burning. We're talking about after you've burnt it.
No, I'm talking
It's
about-
nothing, it's
yeah,
nothing.
Yeah, once it's out.
You can't use it as fire.
Ashes, it's
No,
no longer
but
chametz.
But if
hummus,
the Torah
even
tells
if it's
you to
eaten
burn the
rasher, you
yeshiva,
can't.
Right.
doesn't say chop it
It
up or
makes-
grind it up, he says burn it.
Right.
Hummus is
It's
not
like,
in
you
shire.
have a
Shire
machlokas, what's
is
beer chametz?
is
Is
a
it burning, is it this? So,
has a
is it
religious
just
aspect.
destroy it, or it means?
And hummus is a
adopting it?
physical.
No, here burning.
So it's not
The
just
It
a,
has to be burned. Actually burned. Pinchas, I want to just give you quickly. In order to qualify a alleyway that connects many courtyards, many patios, the alleyway is considered to be, in a sense, a public area. In order to make it so that all of the people can carry, you have to close it. You can make a wall, and you can make, now it's a separate room. But if you don't have you don't necessarily have to have an actual wall. It's enough to put a little crossbeam on top, and that's okay. So up to here, this is the entrance to the alleyway. It's a separate room. You can also have a vertical post. Now the question is, you're making this with wood. What happens if you took the wood of a tree that the idolaters, the worshippers, they worship? They say, this is our God. Now you take the piece and you put it in how can you do that? So the Gemara says, or the writer says here, that if you use it for the cross beam, you cannot use it. But you can use it for the post. What is the difference? They say the cross beam has to have a certain dimension. You cannot say something has dimension if you're going to burn it. Because anything that is going to be burned eventually is considered to have lost its dimensions now. So it doesn't have dimension. The minimum dimension is not there. It's a little bit, to give an example, I don't know. I was going to say, it's like using a driver's license that expired. It's no longer there. It's here, but it has no legal value. So therefore, you cannot say, oh, this is a cup. if it's at Motazara, it's no cup anymore. And especially if it requires a certain height or a certain width. If I have to hold it, as to have a fist wide or whatever, you cannot say it has a fist if you're going to be destroyed. The problem that we have is that the rabbis are saying that a crossbeam you cannot have from the idol worship, the idol tree, but you can have a post. And the difference is why. So the rabbis say maybe because the post doesn't have any dimension, it can be very, very thin. However, it has to have a certain height. And if it has a certain height, then it still has a certain measurement. And if you say that once something has to be burned, it has no measurements, where did the tefachim come from?
Well, it's a line.
Huh?
A line, in like geometry, things like that,
Yeah.
there's a line. A line has no width to it. It's just, so it doesn't really have more than one dimension. It has only one dimension. But something with width and everything else
Well,
has more than
Very good. But this is, I didn't point it out. Magen Avraham writes about this distinction. Very good. Three-dimensional versus one-dimensional. Very good point. I didn't want to bring it up because I have something even more revolutionary, but this is a good answer too.
I don't understand how the Korah, the cross beam, can have to have some width,
With
and the pole.
doesn't.
How
Kosher.
if you have a Korah like
No,
that,
no, 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 no,
It's not
no.
holy.
There's walls.
Sometimes you need the lechi alone is enough. You don't
You
need a
don't have
korah.
a crossbeam.
But Hillel says o korah o lechi. So even without a korah, one little lechi is enough.
Right, we said that. Yeah.
So why does the car have to have dimension?
Huh?
Where does that come from?
Pirosh Be'al Peh.
A what?
The rabbis.
Oh, okay.
Probably L'chal V'Shem Sinai.
I think the difference is, it's an alleyway. There's walls there already. They're already walls. You're just demarcating by
Right,
putting
yes.
a line on the wall. But the thing across is not there. There's nothing across the top.
Create
You're
something new.
putting something across
Okay.
the top. So you have
But
to.
the lechi also put it.
Right, but the lechi you're putting on like a wall or something, or some kind of.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's not an alleyway if there's no walls.
No, what you're saying is what the Rambam says, is that the amount that you put is so insignificant that it doesn't matter.
Right.
That's
But
your
it's the
argument.
difference between
Yeah.
marking something like with a line versus constructing something which is now some type of a I don't know in building
A
what you would call
structure,
it.
a structure.
Structure.
Some kind of thing.
Very good. Very
And we
good.
defined it by having to support a certain amount of weight even on it and a certain size of object. I think.
The dimension of the Korah is an integral part of the halacha. Integral. Whereas in the Lechi, it doesn't matter. Okay, but you're actually explaining what the Rambam writes. And the Ravad objected to it on a very important point. Okay, I understand all the idea, but it's still, you're requiring 10 tvachim high. Let's take a look a little bit at the Kiddush Halevi says it even more clearly. We're going to read in Hebrew.
Well,
the
is
long
the
one.
Rabbi could be objecting for two reasons. One, he's saying, but there's a dimension, a minimum dimension.
Right.
So because there's a minimum dimension, it's whatever. Or he could say, no, it's already as if it's not there anymore. So if it's not there anymore, it has like no dimensions.
Oh, but if it's not there, then what did you put?
That's what I'm saying. You put something that's not anything. You can't use it. In other words, you can't do that because it has no
Okay.
dimension.
All right.
That could be what he said.
That's an interesting idea. Hold it a moment, because this is I want to give you all the factors that will consider this. It's a very interesting idea that you bring in. But I have the objection is, it's okay, you're telling me it doesn't exist, so then you didn't put anything. It says, you make a lechi out of the Asherah. You can make a lechi of nothing. It says, osim lechi. But anyway, I'm not discarding what you're saying. I think you're advanced.
I'm grasping at various.
No, you may be sorry, but it's more complicated. But first, I want to cover this because this gives us at least a basis. It's a little longer. Just follow my translation, okay? בכל עושים לחיים אפילו בדבר שיש בו. We are at source number 9. I could not translate it. I'll translate it now. We make lechem from any object, even from animals. You can put even a person, by the way. You can put a person. Attached,
You
not
stand
attached.
here for
He has to
Shabbos.
stand there all the
You
time.
stand there for Shabbos.
Yeah. You can put a lechi. Be a person.
I'll be the lechi. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Rotating.
אפילו באיסורי הנאה, עבודה זרה עצמה, או השאלה שעשה אותה לחי. So even something that is considered up, as we explained, as the Mishabur explains, you are not deriving a benefit directly from the beam, you're directly, or from the little wood, you're deriving a benefit from the mavoi. This makes the mavoi something you can use, but it's not a hana'ah.
You can have a goy as a lechi.
כאשר שהלחי עוביו כלשהו, so he explains. This is actually, remember, the Chidush Rabbeinu Chaim Halevi is explaining the Rambam. He likes the Rambam. So, שהלחי עוביו כלשהו, because the lechi, the amount is, I wouldn't call it insignificant, but because it is so small, it does not rise to the minimum, to the threshold of what is dimension. It's underdimensional. Imagine something that is below the dimension. גובה הלחי אין פחות מ10 טפחים רוחבו וראשו. So then I call let's go to the next page. Okay. So see, this is actually going to Rambam. Let's go to the third line. ובהשגות הלך, בהשגות means the רב, כתב את עוביו כלשהו גבוה מיהת צריך שיעור, שיהיה גבוה כלל. The objection that we made. Okay, but you're still saying, okay, you say there's no dimension on the width, but it's dimension on the height. ובאור הדברים, he explains now the rival. ובכל מה שצריך ציור פסול בשל השירה משום דחתות במחדל שיעורי. ועל כן פסק הרמב"ם, דלחי, דלת לשיעורה, the Rambam says, since there's no dimension, is there no required dimension on the lechi. Therefore, gam b'shalash kasher. So he's making a distinction that since you actually are not requiring a dimension, you cannot say this doesn't meet the dimension because there's no dimension, even if even small. Okay. ועל זה הוא שהשאיר הרב"ד דנהי דליקה בלחי שיעור הרחובו. You're right, the Rambam is right. There's no dimension in the width. However, אבל מכל מקום הרי בעינן, nevertheless we are requiring שיהיה גבוה 10. There has to be at least 10 טפחים. ואם כן, העיקר זה שיעור לגבוה. So you say there's no dimension? There's a dimension of the height. וכיוון דחתותי מכתת שיעורי, since you say that something that is avazara and it's going to be burned, it's considered as if it's no longer a no dimension. So how do you have to have a dimension of the height? So here comes the objection.
The tzadi ayin is what? Tzarich iyun or something?
Yeah. והנה בין בדברי הרמב"ם, we're in the second paragraph of the Chidush Rabbeinu. והנה בין בדברי הרמב"ם, whether in the Rambam or in the Raiva, so he explains that דהך הלכתא דחתותא מכתת שיעור לא נכלל בזה דעצם הדבר חשוב כמי שאינו. You cannot, the concept of something that has to be burned is as if it doesn't exist. So therefore, the imken הרי לא היה מועיל עד הלכי שיעורו במשהו. So then he says, so where is, and this is the part, David, that you started to allude to, where is there something insignificant of the lechi? Because since you're going to burn it, imken הרי גם משהו אין כאן. There isn't even something. Okay, you're saying it's infinitesimal, it is very little, it's very thin, wonderful. But if you say Michtav Shiureh, it's not just a little,
It means there's nothing.
it's
there.
nothing, it's zero.
You can't count it. You
Can't count. Doesn't exist. This is, by the way, a fascinating concept that I want to discuss, right? Something can be here, but if the halacha says it has to be burned, you have to see as if it's not there.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful idea. There's also in Musa. You could say, if I see a beautiful woman married to another man, I have to say she's beautiful, but to me it's not here. So the concept, in morality, you have to say even things that are here should not be to me as if they exist.
Maybe like in Pesach, when you burn whatever you
The
don't
Chama,
see,
yeah,
it's
be to be,
whatever
yes,
was
yes,
done.
right. It doesn't matter the physical existence. What matters is what is the connection to me as a Jew. It's a beautiful concept. I mean, that's what I call this space. Okay, but let's just review what he says, David. This is what I wanted to point out. It doesn't. The argument that it is little is not worth. It's not worth it. It doesn't work because even the little is already destroyed. Even משהו אין כאן. שמע, אתה עוקב אחרינו? אלא ודאי, יסוד הדין והשיעור מכתת ובטל מיני שיעורי. The truth is nothing here. אבל את צודק. So what is something exists. ולפי זה בלחי דמכתת שיעורי מכל מקום, אם באנו לדון על המקום, נמצא לכל הגובה 10 שבו, יש לו במקומו מחיצת לחי. ורק הלחי בעצמו אין בו שיעורה. He says, it's not that the lechi has to have a dimension. This is the part that I want you to use your brain to help me. it doesn't really matter how long it is. What matters, it has to reach 10 tefachim.
Hi.
Doesn't matter what it is, as long as it's 10
Yeah. So listen to what it says on the underlined part. עיקר השיעור אינו בעצם המחיצות, כי אם בהמקום דבעינה שגובה 10 שבו יהיה מוקף מחיצות. So the same thing happens with mechitzot. The mechitzot, it doesn't matter that, how long they are. They just have to reach 10. So make a distinction between when a measure is required of the item or something is required to be in that place, regardless of what the item is. A lulav has to be a certain, itself has to have size. Here we don't require the lechi to have size. We simply require the lechi to reach 10.
But that's only in a condition that something next to the lechi, no?
Yeah, yes.
Not in the air. I'm putting up a pole in the
No,
air.
right. Well, it has to be, because it's the end of the alleyway.
Otherwise,
No, it has to be at the beginning of the alleyway, yeah.
Yeah, it's the difference between one dimension and two dimensions. You're saying just one dimension. That's a line, just
The
one
one,
dimension.
yeah.
But
But
how
when
do
you
you get
say
one
width,
dimension?
you need two dimensions.
But the question is, let me just
It's
remember.
one dimension. The ash.
The line
The line of one.
of whatever, it doesn't matter, doesn't matter what it
But
is.
we're talking about a real case where it's a branch or something from a
Right, it's as if you painted
So-
a line over there.
But
It's
this
like
is
you just have a
there's a
line.
substance here.
Right, but I'm saying it's like
Well,
something you just stuck on there, or something you painted on there, or something you glue, or a strip of glue,
We're saying-
or even a snake, or the thin
Snake.
worm, or something you just hung there.
But are
or
we saying
something.
that the sum of kol shehu can be 10 tefachim? Or we're saying it doesn't have to be 10 tefachim? What are we saying here?
It's a line, it's a demarcation of a line, it doesn't need any
No, I
substance
understand.
whatsoever.
But
well,
Doesn't need any
he's
substance.
making a distinction between when the Torah requires something to have a certain dimension and when the Torah requires something to be at a certain place. So here is not, we don't care about the lechi
because we care about the alley.
width, or the lechi, sorry, height. We want the lechi to be put there. So since it doesn't apply to the lechi, to the pole itself, then the fact that it exists, it's as if it doesn't exist. Because it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter what it is, it doesn't matter how thick it is, it doesn't matter,
Right.
living, dead,
Nothing.
but
We just
none of
wanted
that
to
matters.
reach 10 to as a
It's just
demarcation.
This
But
line has to be
what's
demarcated.
reaching 10 tefachim? What?
That's exactly. The nothing exists. It's exactly.
So how do we know that
Very
nothing
good.
goes to 10 tefachim?
Then-
Maybe it's only 9
Ah,
tefachim.
no,
we
because at
see
10
something.
pachim, you re-see it.
No, it doesn't make sense.
We
This
see
is very difficult. That's what I said to you. I want you to help me with this. The space is a non-existing space. Well, I don't like to use the word space because it's going to be confusing. The lechi does not have to have any measurements. And he says, he's making a distinction. I'll give you another example that I saw in another place, which is fascinating. I'll give you an example. A sukkah has to be covered with a schach.
Right.
You know, what is the halacha of the schach?
Has to have a certain width.
No.
Gravity should cover
The more
sun.
important, what is it? Has to cover a certain area.
Right.
So it doesn't really, it has to be a kosher schach. Okay. But there's no dimension of the schach.
Right.
The dimension is the hole that needs to be covered.
Covered, right.
7 by 7 tefachim. You understand? So therefore, according to this logic, and I put this at the end.
And we don't even need
You
7
could-
by 7. We can have holes too.
Of
Of a certain size.
Right.
So even that's
Right. No, but you understand this? The Gemara, the Torah doesn't tell us what the size of schach is, and therefore you can use schach of Asherah.
Oh boy.
The end result.
Do you understand?
Yeah.
Because you're not.
you don't need it. It doesn't.
Right.
It is necessary.
And it's not, you're not going to get benefit from the Asherah, you're not going to get benefit from the Sukkah. Oh, it's being given by the Asherah, but it doesn't really matter. We're not worried about the Asherah. Who cares about the Asherah? I'm sitting in a Sukkah. It has a cover. So, in this sense, what the Chaim is making a distinction is when do you apply the principle of nichtat shiurei? When do you say that something that is about to be burned is considered as if it doesn't exist? Only on items where the Torah is telling you it has to have a certain size. A lulav has a certain size. A shover has a certain size. And so therefore, if it's an item that has to be destroyed, it's no size. But in something that doesn't require a size
Requiring a dimension.
or dimension,
You need a dimension, not the substance almost doesn't matter. It's the dimension within it.
right?
It's the space that's isolated by whatever.
Exactly. It's a space that is required by it.
It's a space.
It's the space, yeah.
So in a way, we're talking here about something that functions even though theoretically it doesn't exist. It's not here,
So,
and yet it functions.
so you don't need a lechi. Or you need a Quran, certain...
No. We do not have a Quran. With the lechi alone.
Oh, okay.
Lechi, how does it work? Because what he says is that it doesn't. That's an example of schach is a better example.
Also with the Erev, when we do the road, we're imagining a wall. It can
The imagination.
It's so thin, and all we're doing is making a space.
No, very good point. The whole idea
Explain.
of good
Right,
achit,
right.
remember we learned
Good
today,
office, yeah.
good achis. What is a good achis? You ever see a wall when there's no wall? According to the lacha, there's a wall.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not a line. Don't think that you have a line. You have a wall. Where is the wall?
It's making a space. It's not the wall. It's the space it defines. It defines a space
Yeah,
by
but
whatever it is.
or I prefer to say that since the lacha says it's a wall, it's a wall.
Right.
There's a difference between physical reality and legal reality, halachic reality.
Yeah. Even when there's an ocean, you don't need a it's like a line, no? In the ocean.
Yeah.
Well,
So it's also space.
Well, but it's Carmelit.
what's the ocean?
Carmelit.
It can be used as a line, no?
I mean, for Erev,
Forever, yeah. If you pass through the ocean.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
That's what
What
I
are you
heard
referring?
one time.
Yeah, no, you.
No, ocean is Carmelit. You're talking about the line of the ocean?
Yeah.
The shoreline.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the shoreline has a separation between a Rashut Yachid and yeah.
Two
Yeah. I'm
Rashidas.
saying it's also space. Really, it doesn't. There's nothing.
It's one. It's
Yeah.
one domain, and then it's the other domain. So the
You
ocean
separate one from the other.
separates. Yeah, it separates the domains.
But yeah, it's true. But I'm not really sure what.
We're talking about space like there's nothing there. So I'm saying.
Yeah. Oh yes. Yeah. But here we see the. That's what I said. This is what I love this idea. Let's look at the last few lines. In the lechi of Asherah, even though you're saying that it shouldn't exist, אבל הרי זה לא mania, because it doesn't really matter that the etzem alechi doesn't have any shiur, doesn't require a shiur. But the place where it has to be. So כל הגובה 10 חשוב מוקף בגזר על כן, לפי מה שפסק רמב"ם. Here he by the way, Lou, you see here the function of the brisker is to justify the Rambam against the rival.
You say objective?
He defends the Rambam against the rival.
Yeah.
This is what he does all the time. That's what this book is about, defending the Rambam.
That's good.
שמחלק הרמב"ם בין לחי לקורא. He makes a distinction between לחי לקורא. ובקורא שיעור טפח הוא בעצם הקורא. The requirement that it has to have one width, one fist wide, is in the item of the Korah, it's in the crossbeam itself. ועל כן, and therefore, שפיר שייך בזה, אך דינא דחיתות למכתא שיעורי. So therefore we understand that when it's a avodah zarah and you're going to burn it, you cannot say that there is a first why, because it doesn't exist. מה שכן כן, which is not in the case, בלחי, in the לחי, because the עצם הלחי, אין לו שיעור כלל. In the essence of the לחי there is no dimension. והשיעור הוא רק במקום, where it is placed. על כן לא שייך בזה. Therefore, in that case, the concept that is destroyed, it doesn't exist, because we are not concerned about how long it is. We just want to make sure that it reaches 10. See the difference between, you look at the lechi and you say, how big is the lechi? No dimension. It reaches 10. How it reaches 10 without having the dimension. The dimension of the lechi doesn't matter.
I think in geometry it's easy to explain. It's one dimension. It's a line. Space, by definition, has to have 2 or 3 dimensions.
Okay.
Area, could be volume. This is one dimension. It is one dimension, but it's not space. Because a line doesn't take up any space. Even in geometry, I'm saying stuff like that.
That's correct.
It's interesting. So you are justifying the Michtat Shiure
In the
as being
physical
one dimension is not true.
geometry of it.
Right. That's a very good argument.
And you can keep cutting the line as much as you want, and you'll never reach nothing.
Get
You
half.
keep
cut in
dividing
half
the
each
line
time.
because it's theoretical. You never reach. You can keep cutting in half of
And
it
parallel
forever
lines
and ever and
never
ever because it's never. There's always something.
As long as there's no cocaine there.
What?
As long as there's no cocaine there.
That's a different line.
It's a different line, that's right.
What if he never burns it afterwards?
But I just,
Okay, I understand theoretical,
It has to be burned. It's considered to be burned as if it before it was
but
burned.
he doesn't have to actively burn it.
No.
So it can remain,
Right.
whatever it is.
Then, if he doesn't burn it, then he is actually transgressing the Torah.
Right.
But he's killed it. He's killed it. He cut it up. He cut it down.
Oh no, we're talking about that. Maybe even he could see the whole thing.
No.
He can keep it. According to this logic, doesn't matter. Even if it has a certain width, it's as if it doesn't exist.
But he does have to consume it. He doesn't.
But it
have,
has to have.
he doesn't have to destroy it at some point.
Yes. No, but I'm
Let's
saying.
say he's not destroyed. Let's say he's a sinner, and he never destroys.
Yeah,
it.
like
it's
he
still
transgressed.
it's still a lechi. It's still
Oh, it's still a left.
if it wasn't.
Yeah, I think according to this logic, it seems to me. I don't know what you think. That the Asherah could be the lechi could be even wide, not small as we thought, but because it's as if it doesn't exist.
Has no dimension.
We don't mention you're not transgressing anything, because it's not that there is. If the Torah would have said use a lechi of 1 tefach, and you use this one, you're not using it. There's no tefach. But because the Torah is not asking you to put a tefach there, it's also making you a small line, then even though in physical reality it has a certain width, even 2 fists, 3 fists, we look as if it doesn't exist. And you're not using the Asherah. So what is the 10? So in the width, that's what the argument that I wanted to clarify, that even if it is 2 dimensions, it doesn't really matter, because what matters is how high it is the position, as if you put something over here. Of course, that something is nothing, but the placing is something.
So we can measure something that has no dimension, its height.
You can determine its space,
Its
even
height.
if it does it.
It's made of nothing.
Right.
But
But
we
it
have a
reaches
height.
a certain, yes,
No, but also,
yes.
actually,
Very
it's not
good.
that it's made of nothing. It's made of anything,
What's that?
including nothing.
That's
So you could take. You said you could have a person standing there.
Right.
You
That's
could
not
have
nothing, that's
a
something.
goy
That's
standing
something.
there, and the goy is davening avodah zarah, and he's serving as the lechi over there. right? Even if the guy was davening Avodah Zorah, he's marking the Mavoy, and he's the Lechi.
He's saying Asherah, Asherah. But I find fascinating this distinction. It says if the Torah, thank you very much, is not requiring, thank you, is not requiring you to take something with a certain measure, the fact that this is going to be destroyed and therefore it's considered as if it doesn't exist, then it doesn't really matter that you use it. Because at this point, you're not using it for a purpose. In the lulav, when the Torah says you have to have a lulav of at least 3 tfachim, you can't say, oh, I'm going to use the Asherah, because the Asherah doesn't allow measurement. It doesn't allow, it's not measurable. But when it doesn't require measurement, like in the Lechi, that doesn't require, then the fact that it doesn't have a measure, even though physically it exists, is immaterial. Because you don't need a measurement. Why do you need tefach in the Lechi? You don't need a tefach. And the Rambam seemed to say that since the amount is kol shehu, that it is insignificant. I would say like a little line, like a little thin line. But according to the Chaim of Brisk, even if it's wide enough, it seems to me, it doesn't really matter. And you're not using the Asherah because the Asherah doesn't exist. And the height is in the position of that. In the fact that you put it over here, that is not in the etzem, it's not in the what it shows in the chefza, it's not in the item itself. It's the position of the item, not in the item. The item has to be considered to be destroyed.
I see.
If it doesn't have to be anything, that's the case. Why we even mention a lechi?
Well, you have to have something. You have to have something.
No, but we said you don't have it. You don't need anything.
No, it doesn't need any amount.
Okay, the height, 10
The
tefachim.
height has its height.
So as long as it's 10 tefachim, fine. But why we call it lechi? There is no lechi. Why we even mention that?
No, there is. In the reality, there is a lechi, and it's a visible lechi. And that's what I want to say. That according to the Chaim, it seems to me, I don't know if you can tell me if you have another idea, that it can be big, and you're not using it because the Torah does not tell you has to have a certain width.
Or maybe we mentioned that we need a lechi just in case that you do want to put something, I don't know, tangible, whatever, something that.
It has, well, you has to
in
be
case
something.
you put in really something.
Acquire.
But it has to be
If you,
something.
if you want to support maybe the Korah.
No, but even if you don't have it, you have to have something to mark it. Otherwise, it's not.
Oh, so you need something.
You need something. You need something.
A marker, a pencil, whatever.
But the argument is, this is the little bit of a twist that I'm giving you here. It's something, and yet it's nothing.
No, but there is something.
Yeah, there is something, but legally there is nothing.
Use the AI, so it
The
doesn't.
michtad shiureh,
Something.
it's avad cheshivuto.
Right, there
Ke'ilu batel, ke'ilu batel.
like if you need to be burned, there's really nothing to burn.
That's an interesting idea. No, I bet you when you burn it, I think it suddenly acquires physicality. But I think that the chap here is that although the item is in physical existence, we have to consider it as if it doesn't exist. That's the concept of michtad shiureh. And what the Chamba Brisk makes a distinction is when the Torah requires an item to have a certain dimension, then in this it cannot be used because it's as that it doesn't no dimension. But when the Torah does not require you to have that dimension, like the lechi, then it doesn't matter that you use it because you're not saying, oh, I'm using lechi, one tefach. No tefach. I don't need anything. The issue of the height is the problem. That's what the Ravat presented to the Rambam. And that's what he says, but what about the height? So the Chaim of Brisk adds as a novelty that in the 10 Fachim is not the length of the item, but the position of the item. The position has to be reached 10 Fachim.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how long it is. Of course it has to be this length. Because all of the 9.99 of the line of the Asherah, it's as if it doesn't exist. It's there, but it doesn't exist, and it reaches 10.
So how you know it's 10 tefachim if it's not in there?
Well, you measure what the end was. Maybe you measure. Maybe even 10. Maybe even 10. Maybe that's a good question that you asked, Shimon. How do you know?
Right.
Yeah, you're right. Because it's visible. It is visible. It's not invisible. I think that the idea is you see it and it's as if it's not there. Because, and the chidush is, you're not using its width for any observable matter. Is not the width of the thickness. You're not using any of the lechi itself. All you're using is the height. That means the reach is the height. There's a different. We tend to think that if you need something that is 10 tefachim high, that the dimension of the item is 10 tefachim high. What the Chaim Bris adds as a novelty is that it's not the width, the length that we are concerned, is that the position it reaches the top. And that's all we care. So it could be non-existent up to 10. And so long as it reaches 10, the non-existent is enough to make it a lechi. In practical sense, we're talking here about a big, thick piece of wood that comes from an asherah that you put on the wall, and you're not using it because it's michtat shiureh. It doesn't matter that it's visible, because it's as if you have to consider it to be non-existent. The Torah did not require you to width, thickness, anything. It simply requires you that it reaches 10.
But if you happen to bring a piece of wood that is visible and it has a thickness, then you should know this is prohibited, it's from Asherah.
Oh, if the lechi, right?
lechi, yeah.
That's what the Korah is not allowed, because the Korah no, but the Korah requires a certain width. In the Korah, you cannot use that.
You could bring it from Asherah, the lechi.
The lechi, but not the Korah, because the Korah
right.
says you have to have
Has
one
to
tefach.
exist.
The Korah, yeah.
That has to exist.
Okay, that's the whole idea what we're talking about, because there's non-existent, then it's not a problem.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So for other things that are non-existent, I think shemen sreifa,
Oh,
we
what?
have to burn. Shemen sreifa,
Oh, yeah.
Truma.
right. So
Oil.
what we can do with that, we can burn it, we
Yeah.
can
And you can use it.
use it, but we can't use it on Shabbos or
No, that's for a
Yom
different
Tov.
reason.
Oh,
Only
boy.
because you're not allowed to burn. This is not on Shabbos. Erev Yom Tov is Yom Tov before Shabbat. So that's why it's not Erev Shabbat Yom Tov. The Seifa was the oil became impure on Yom Tov. You're not allowed to burn it until after Yom Tov. So this is with Yom Tov, you're not allowed to burn. That's what the Shemen Seifa. But regularly, no problem. If it were not, what the Mishnah talks about is when that day is Yom Tov before Shabbat. So now you're using it, burning it on Yom Tov, and that you're not allowed to do. You have to burn it after Yom Tov.
Because of Shabbat?
No, because you're not allowed to burn on Yom Tov. Of course not on Shabbat. But even on Yom Tov, you're not allowed to burn Truma.
Even if you wanted to add it to your lamp and
Well, that would be the logic. I'm using it to the lamp. No.
If you
Since you're
get a
not-
new, you can use it, right?
You're not allowed to burn Truma, impure Trumat Me'ah, the Yom Tov. You have to wait till the next day. So here, in this case, that's
It's sort
but the
of,
reason is because it became on Yom Tov.
right. And also, it's Asur, it's forbidden to burn Truma on Yom Tov. Burn it.
Because it's sort of like, it's not nice that you have, unfortunately, it's not nice you let it become tameh. It's not nice that you have to burn
That
it.
you make a fire that is
Right.
not necessary
Right.
on Yom Tov. Yeah.
Oh, boy. Wow.
Okay, so this was a very difficult shiur. But I wanted to show you that something can be there and not exist.
It's easy, just call it a line. It's a
Yeah.
one dimension. It's It's not.
But that's how you visualize
No,
it.
that would be.
That's a visual.
Yeah.
You can't visualize it because it's not there.
No, but I'm saying that's a visual. That's how you visualize it.
That's really the difference between what we're talking about, a two-dimensional, substantial, occupying
No, but-
space, and not really occupying the space, even though it may be thick, but it's just a. just
Right,
a
because
line.
because we don't require more than a
Right,
line.
because we don't, there's no requirement.
Right,
Everything,
All we need is a line.
right, exactly.
everything
I mean,
is
it can be
virtual
even
today.
imaginary line.
Yeah, but it's something we can see,
Yeah, yeah.
just so that people coming in or out see the demarcation. That's it, that's all we need.
That one they surely see. Yeah. That's what I said. It could be even thick. The part that we're using is only the line. Even though it's thick.
Is that possible?
It is a very difficult sugya.
What am I
But I like the idea of the schach. Listen, you can use the schach of Hashanah because it doesn't require you to have a size. You're not allowed to use the lulav of Hashanah because there you have to have a size. But the schach, you don't have to have a schach, a size. You don't have it in the cover of the tzukah.
Doesn't the schach have to have a thickness of three?
No, that's only a minhag that it should be, that it should cover you. But first of all, the schach has to be to cover you, shade, give you shade. Of
What?
course, has to give you shade.
Yeah, shade.
Yeah, of course. But there's no dimension. The Torah doesn't give you a dimension as it gives you in the shofar or the ulav.
Strike.
You need a l'chaim now.
Look
You
to you.
really need it.
It's a very difficult, very difficult. It took me a lot of time
a little
to
bit
figure
that-
this out.
It's a little bit the opposite of kedusha about the Zohar. Even before you burn it, it doesn't exist, and kedusha almost never goes away. You know, it's almost that. It's almost.
Very good.
It's an interesting.
That's a good idea.
I mean, you can exchange kedusha. You can change it in certain
Transfer
things.
it,
Well, you can transfer it, but not for carbon. It always stays, and the place where the base mikdash is still kodesh.
Right.
So it's a little
Interesting.
bit of the opposite.
And
This-
the idolatry is like the falsehood doesn't
Right,
exist.
can't stand.
Truth
Right,
remains.
exactly.
I'm gonna keep
point.
this. No, I can't.
Tamara's waiting for me. I'm sorry.
Can I keep this page?
Of course, you can take everything.
You always
I make it for this purpose.
No, I just want
It's
this.
a culture.
What is that?
Culture.
Louis keeps all the sheets.
Oh yeah.
I have one too. I have
I
two.
just want to.
One day you use it.
My copy. I don't know.
Give a sheet.
What's your copy? I want to keep
One
this.
day I went through it, and then I didn't even remember that we did this already. They're going, oh, right, we did
Rita
this.
likes this kind of stuff. She looks, knows all about it.
It's, yeah, it is. It's a
You don't like? You came for a reading?
It's not.
No,
It's
I,
wow.
it's very interesting. My good friend just passed away. He's about a year older